So this is teaching for women. So I want you Christian women to ask your pastors this question. In Jude chapter 1, verse 4, it says that there's these ungodly men who were before ordained to this combination, who crept in and turned the grace of God into lasciviousness. Ask him, where did they creep into? Who were these men who crept in, and where did they creep into? And what is lasciviousness? You can look it up in the Strong's Concordance. It means unbridled lust, wantonness, shamelessness. The grace of God. Shamelessness. And then I want you to ask him, what's the difference between that and unmerited favor? And then I want you to ask him in Titus 2, starting in verse 11, it says, the grace of God has appeared to all men of this world. So then I want you to ask your pastor, if the grace of God has appeared to all men of this world, the grace of God, for our salvation, if it's appeared to all men of this world and it's unmerited favor, then why are there going to be people that go to hell? And then I want you to ask him, continuing in Titus 2, the grace of God that has appeared to all men for their salvation. It's appeared to every man for their salvation. I want you to ask him, this says it teaches you to deny ungodliness. Ask him, what does it mean by it teaches you to, what's the ungodliness? And how does it teach you to deny ungodliness if it's unmerited favor? And then I want you to ask your pastor, it says it teaches you to deny lusts. And I want you to ask him, okay, so in Jude 1:4, lasciviousness, unbridled lust, right? So if the grace of God teaches you to deny your lust, but unmerited favor is, you can give in to your lust and you're forgiven. Unbridled lusts and you're forgiven. Can you make that make sense? Can you explain that? Because Titus 2 says the grace of God teaches to deny sin, ungodliness, and lusts. But you say it's unmerited favor, so explain that to me. And then it says it teaches you to deny sin and lust so you can live soberly and righteously in this present world. So to be righteous is not to sin, right? And then I want you to look up the word grace in the Strong's Concordance. It's G5485, and it says it means especially divine influence upon the heart and the reflection in your life. And then ask him, when it says in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 29, it says to not tread underfoot the Son of God and count the covenants he was sanctified in and call it an unholy thing. And then ask him, what is that covenant it talks about? And don't tread it underfoot. The covenant he was sanctified it. Call it an unholy thing. And then sin despites onto the spirits of grace. And then ask your pastor, if the grace of God is a spirit, how is unmerited favor a spirit? And ask him to explain that to you. Because it would make sense, right, that the divine influence, the conviction of God, the divine influence upon your heart teaches you to turn away from your sin and your lusts, deny it. So you might have a chance to be saved if you listen to it, right? The conviction of God, the spirits of divine influence, conviction upon your heart, teaching you to deny ungodliness and lusts of this world so you can live righteously, not sin despite on his spirit of grace. So I want you to go ask your pastor to explain those things to you. Have him explain that to you. And then I want you to ask him, Paul said that he worked harder than them all, but not I, the grace of God that made him who he was. So if the grace of God worked harder than them all, even, Paul worked harder than them all, but not him, the grace of God. If the grace of God worked harder with Paul and its unmerited favor, wouldn't that mean Paul was sinning more than them all? I mean, wow. Paul was sinning more than them all when he was converted, a servant of Yeshua. And then I want you to ask him, when it says that Yeshua grew in grace, he grew in grace. Ask him to explain that to you. So if grace is unmerited favor, why would Yeshua have to grow in unmerited favor? Wasn't he perfect? I want you to go ask your pastor these questions. And then ask them, are you the ungodly man that was before ordained to this combination who's turned the grace of God into lasciviousness, unmerited favor?